Okay, so by now most of you know about AlphaZero defeating Stockfish and the triumph of neural networks and stuff like that. So I won't belabor the point too much. It was a really amazing result, and maybe sports-wise it wasn't the best configuration, but scientifically, yeah, it was awesome. And don't forget that the strongest engine before the strongest neural network chess engine before AlphaZero was Giraffe, which was barely an IM, like 2400. So any such huge leap is really amazing. Okay, so anyway, I spent a good portion of the past 6 days looking at this game, deep analysis, analyzing it myself, trying to understand it, considering some options. Really, these high-level computer games take so much time. I have experience in them because I remember analyzing a particular drawn game, Stockfish versus Komodo. I have it on on my my chess.com blog. Yeah, that was a long time ago though, about 2 or 3 years. But yeah, I spent about a week on that too. So these computer games take really so much energy and time because, I mean, who to analyze with, right? I mean, how are you going to know where the crucial mistakes Stockfish did occurred? You know, it's really tough. So anyway, I spent so much time on this, and I think I uncovered some really nice gems in here. I'm sure others haven't discovered this, but of course others haven't spent this much time on the one game, right? They probably haven't spent this much time on the entire match. Okay, so first of all, I'll do some analysis and commentary on the game, and we'll do a test. We'll have the viewers take a small test of 20 positions, and I'll give you a certain ranking. You can see it. It'll be fun. Also, the second part of the video will include the evaluations of Stockfish at high depths, and we can see how it started going wrong, where its blind spots were, etc, etc. So let's start with the game. D4. AlphaZero really likes D4. So that was really tough for me to see because I'm an E4, C5 kind of player. But hey, great news for D4 players, right? And one thing the Alpha Beta engines like Stockfish, and Komodo and Houdini, is the French. They really like E6. And apparently they like it even against D4. So without an opening book, Stockfish went for E6. And AlphaZero said, hey, I think the French isn't such a good idea. Because AlphaZero itself discarded the French and started playing E5. So it went for E4, transposing to the French. Smart AlphaZero. And Stockfish went for D5, normal, knight C3. And now Stockfish goes for knight F6, the losing move. Pause. Wait, what? The losing move? Well, really, I think the Steinitz isn't such a great idea at 3400 computer level, and we'll see why in this game. I won't delve too deeply now because it'll seem like gibberish, but as you see how the game progresses, you'll understand why I think probably the winner is better. Anyway, knight F6. E5, standard, main line, knight FD7, F4, supporting E5, and C5, okay, a break in the center, classic French stuff, nothing new here. Knight F3, and now Stockfish without the opening book goes for a bit of a weird move, C takes D4, releasing the tension early on. I don't really like this. Knight C6 is the more standard way of going about things, and I think if you want to play the Steinitz, this is the way to go. At best, white has a smidgen of an advantage, I guess. Anyway, C takes D4, what can you do without the opening book? Knight B5, very interesting play by AlphaZero. Instead of recapturing immediately with knight takes D4, which would be a fine option, it goes for knight B5 because it wants the queenside knight to go here. Also, it opens up C3. So after the knight takes, there's the c3 option. And not only that, it leaves this knight here where it can protect e5. So a very nice idea. Now Stockfish goes for an interesting maneuver, which reminds me of a certain Queen's Indian maneuver. At the Queen's Indian maneuver, if anyone looked at the entirety of the match, of the games in the match, they know that the Queen's Indian was featured a lot. Yeah, bishop b4 check. It goes for this. Bishop d2 and then bishop c5. This reminds me of a certain maneuver in the Queen's Indian, and we'll get sidetracked a bit, but bear with me. So d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, knight f3, b6. Okay, this is the Queen's Indian defense. g3, this is the maybe most popular variation of the Queen's Indian defense, the fianchetto variation. Again, I'm not really a d4 player, but I think so. Bishop a6. And now b3. b3 is a nice move. It supports the c4 pawn. There are other options here, of course, like maybe queen c2 or stuff. But yeah, b3 is an idea. But the problem is it really weakens the dark squares. And black exploits this by going bishop b4 check. And this is the same maneuver Stockfish employs. Because after bishop b4 check, bishop d2, the bishop goes back to e7, arguing that the bishop on d2 is misplaced. So this is the idea Stockfish is using. But I have a certain question for you guys, and this is part of the test. So after b3, bishop b4 check, what if white goes knight b d2? Okay, so this is the first position in the test. By the way, each position is worth 5 points. And there's 20 positions, so the sum total is 100. Okay, so knight b d2. Now it's your turn. What would you play here? You can pause the video now. Well, you should pause the video if you want to think. Okay, so I'll give you the solution. It's bishop c3. And basically white loses an exchange. Well, how does white lose an exchange? Okay, let's see. Rook b1. Okay, this is test position number 2. Try to find the best move. Pause the video. Okay, so it's bishop b7. With the idea of going here, because the knight is pinned, and after the bishop is on this square, e4, there's nowhere for the rook to go. So what if white prevents that by going queen c2? This is test position number 3. Let's see if you can find it. Pause the video. Well, this really doesn't prevent much. Well, I mean, it does prevent the pin, but black just wins the pawn with bishop takes d4. Do note that after bishop e4, yeah, you can't capture with a knight, and it seems scary at first, but you just take on c3. And after takes here, you have the 2 minor pieces for the rook, which is of course much better for the minor pieces. So white is basically winning here. Okay. Queen c2 was an idea after bishop b7. What about bishop b2? Is this an idea? That's position number 4. Pause the video. Well, not really. I mean, bishop e4, again, there's bishop c3. Well, not again, but there's bishop c3. But there's knight e4 here. And really, you can't deal with the pin. You can't play bishop takes c3 because knight takes c3 would be a fork. So this isn't working. And if you go something like bishop g2, knight takes d2, and you can't recapture with this knight because this bishop is hanging. So you have to take the bishop here and you lose the exchange. So that's the idea, the maneuver in the Queen's Indian. You go here just to provoke bishop d2. So Stockfish employs this idea. Very nice idea by Stockfish. And here at depth 39, the position is given as equal, which seems reasonable, I guess. So b4, bishop e7, knight b takes d4. Already here we're in a sort of critical position. Stockfish plays a move, but I think here it's starting to take the wrong approach. So what would you play here? I'll flip the board so that you can see it from black's perspective. And this is test position number 5. And pause the video. Okay, so the problem with the French is that you lack space. Not only that, there's also this big problem, which we'll get to see in the game. And that's why the Winawer I like more. Because you sort of have much more potential on the queen side. In the Winawer, you either trade the bishop on c8 in some lines, or if white tries to prevent that, you get some good queenside pressure. In the Steinitz, you're suffering from a lack of play, sort of. And you get to see that here. So here black is suffering from lack of space. Now Stockfish played knight c6. This is an okay move, but it doesn't really understand the opening. It doesn't really show a deep understanding of the opening. What does show a deep understanding of the opening, and what Stockfish does find at very high depths, is a5. And this gains some space on the queen side, and it's a very important move. After b5, you have knight c5. And your knight is in a good position. As compared to here, your knight on c6 really isn't doing anything. Your knight on d7 is terrible. Your bishop on c8, well, it'll lose the game. It'll contribute to you losing the game, and we'll see that later on. So, knight c6 really doesn't strike me as a good idea. So if I were like a team with Stockfish and we were faced with the task of playing AlphaZero, yeah, you'd bet I'd go for a5. Anyway, c3. This is given as... we need to switch now. This is given as best by Stockfish at depth 47. Again, I'll show you the depths and all that in the second part of this video, but I just thought I'd mention that. Now Stockfish goes for a5. Great. At least it's realizing this now. So b5, knight takes d4. Okay, all normal. C takes d4. There was a potential to take with the d pawn here, with the knight here, but you know, you kind of leave the c pawn on a semi-open file where the rooks can attack. So definitely taking with the c pawn is better. Well, not definitely, but yeah. So we reach this position. This is test position number 6. Pause the video. And, okay, I guess you've paused the video now. If you haven't, pause it. But I'll give you a hint now. The hint is that, again, black is suffering from a space disadvantage. So, black needs to play something that takes care of that problem. Okay, so the move is, and something that Stockfish did not play, but does play at high depths, a4. This is a very key idea. You need to take some space on the queen side. And when reviewing this game, this is the first move that came to my mind, actually. And I guess that means I'm better than Stockfish, and they should add me as a member of the TCEC. Yep, that's exactly what it means. So a4, this is a key idea, taking more space. Unfortunately, Stockfish went for knight b6, and AlphaZero isn't stupid. It goes a4 itself. Now, black doesn't have the option of going a4. So, poor Stockfish. Now knight c4. And Stockfish is trying to activate its pieces. Maybe white taking here isn't such a good idea, because you're kind of opening up the queen. So now, and not only opening up the queen and the rooks to attack d4, which is now a backward pawn, but also you have some problems with the d5 square, which is now open, and the bishop could conceivably land on d5 from b7 to d5. Not only that, but you lost the very strong light squared bishop, and what else? And well, black has some counterplay on the queen's side now. So yeah, probably not the best idea here. So Stockfish here after knight c4 is recommending to go king f2. This might seem like a very strange move at first, but when the center is closed, it's not such a terrible idea. You close up. Not close up. The center is closed. You have freedom to do these king walks and stuff like that. It's a normal move in this position, I guess, because the problem with moving your king is that there are open lines. But when the center is closed, and in this position in particular, there are really no open lines. You have a space advantage on the queen side, on the king side. Did you see what I? Did you notice what I said? A space advantage on the queen side. That wouldn't have happened if Stockfish were a bit smarter or had a bit higher depth. So yeah, this is a sort of normal move, this position, and there are several options here. Knight takes d2 is one, g6 is one, knight takes d2, queen takes d2, bishop d7, rook c1. This is all possible. Here, I guess it's about equal. Maybe white is slightly better. Yeah, probably white is slightly better. This is Stockfish's suggestion at high depths. AlphaZero goes for another idea, which is bishop d3. Just simple development. And this does allow a certain fork after knight b2. So this does allow this. And this is test position number 7. Queen c2 and d takes c3. And okay, we'll add queen takes d3. The question here, it's not a move that you need to find, but here the question is, why isn't this so great for black? Because Stockfish here gives about a 0.5 advantage. Well, the reason is that it's really transposing into the game position. So you lose your knight, and white retains the strong dark squared bishop. It's a bad bishop technically, but it has potential if it goes on from c1 to a3. And black is saddled with this bishop, which is the worst piece in existence. And this bishop, which really doesn't have much potential, and it's offset by this bishop. So what's remaining is this minor piece battle, and the knight easily wins this. Not only that, but white has a huge kingside advantage and a huge queenside advantage. So what was more prudent here, and what Stockfish played, was knight takes d2. And here, it's still the same minor piece battle, with this knight being so much better than this. But this bishop and this bishop, it's a bit debatable who's better, and probably black's is better. So this is sort of a better trade-off than going for knight b2. Okay, so how would you recapture here? Well, AlphaZero went for king takes d2. And it might seem strange at first, but well, queen takes d2 is easily refuted by bishop b4. And knight takes d2 is the subject of test position number 8. So, test position number 8, find the best move. Pause the video. I'll switch it for black's perspective. If you didn't pause the video, you can pause it now. Okay, so the best move is bishop b4. And this is a very strong move that basically wins a pawn, or gets a huge positional edge. It turns out that the only conceivable way of protecting this I guess it's a fork, of protecting white from this fork is playing queen c1. And the problem with queen c1 is that bishop d7. And let's say white plays like king e2, black just goes rook c8, and he's won a tempo. So this isn't such a good idea for white. It's probably still equal, this position, but I mean white is a bit on the back foot. So knight takes d2, bishop b4. What about if king f2? That's position number 9, and this is a bit easy because, well, just pause the video and I'll tell you. Okay. So it's a bit easy because I already gave you the solution. It's bishop c3. Alright. Anyway, so that's why in this position AlphaZero took with the king. It's a brilliant move. It's really a bit strange. I mean, humans, it's not their first instinct to take. But I mean, this is a relatively normal position to take with the king because really, black has no open lines, no counterplay. The king is very safe here. It's even safer than being castled, I'd venture, because it's contributing something. So I wouldn't really say the king is unsafe here. And not only that, but the other options, queen takes d2 and knight takes d2, are losing. So you have to take with the king here. No other option. Well, knight takes d2 isn't losing, but it leads to a disadvantageous position. Slightly, very slightly disadvantageous. Anyway, bishop d7. Okay, black is trying to develop, but this is a pathetic move. Let's be honest. This bishop, the problem French bishop, really in this entire game, black made no efforts to get rid of it. And there are two options in the French. You either get rid of the bad bishop, or you at least gain some queenside space. Stockfish did neither. So, Stockfish was playing like a clump nugget, basically. So, bishop d7, half developing move. Really, I mean, the bishop on c8 was doing nothing. Here, the bishop on d7 is doing nothing. The only good thing about this move is that the rook on a8 is now free to go to c8. But, yeah. King e3, continuing with this theme of using the king when the center is closed. b6. Okay. b6. It does have certain ideas, like maybe the bishop later reroutes this way, and it does happen in this game. But also it maybe prevents a later b6 push by white, though I don't see that happening. But again, the strategy Stockfish is employing is really poor. And now AlphaZero, seeing that it lords over the queen side and it lords over the center, which is close, but white already has a space advantage, it starts starts going for a space advantage on the king side with g4. Brilliant move. So there's no joke, like there's this opening where white gets a space advantage on the queen side, on the king side, and in the center. So where are you supposed to play? Well, you resign. And this is close to what happened in this game. So the Stockfish at least here tries to gain some space. And of course here closing up the position would be very bad, because there are no more breaks in this position. Here white would be probably this position is completely equal. There's no break for white anymore. The only break is f5, but that needs to be prepared very... it needs a lot of time to be prepared. So yeah, h5. That's AlphaZero here isn't a dummy to play g5, so it goes for a very nice move. Queen g1. This move, basically, it does two things. It x-rays the g7 pawn, and in case black captures, the queen is there to recapture, and the queen is now active. The queen has no business on the queen side, because black has this strong bishop and this potential rook on the c file. It will be kicked around on the c file, on the queen side. But on the king side, oh yeah, the queen will do a terrific job. So, h takes g4. Black opens up the king side and allows white's queen to infiltrate, but there weren't that many other options. At depth 49, Stockfish does give bishop f8, g takes f5, rook takes h5, queen g4, rook h8, with 0.00, but at lower depths it went for this, which maybe isn't that bad, maybe, but it does say that at depth 50, queen takes g4 has a plus 0.32 advantage, so yeah, maybe. I think both are equalish. Okay, so here you have to defend the g-pawn. What do you do? If you go rook g8, the classic bishop h7 idea and the French, you make use of that as white, so yeah. And you have to move the rook and you lose the g7 pawn. So yeah. And what other options do you have apart from bishop f8? Maybe g6. Okay, this is the subject of test position number 10. So pause the video and think about g6. Okay, so the problem with g6 is that black's king is terrible. It's being suffocated by its own pieces. So again, this is the central theme of this game. Black's king is suffocated by its own pieces. So bishop takes g6, and well, here you have to lose a pawn. You can't take, because if you take, queen takes g6 check, rook f8, king f8, rook h g1, and you're basically losing the rook here after bishop c8 or any other move. But here let's consider bishop c8. So what would you play here? This is the subject of test position number 11. It's actually, I mean, one move does win, but there's a better move. And this position is here as a sort of joke. So don't beat yourself up too much if you don't find it. This is a bit of a joke. So yeah, pause the video. Okay, so queen g7 check, of course, wins the rook, but there's a mate in 17 that you might have missed. And that's rook ac1. Yeah, this is a mate in 17. But you're not an engine to find this. So yeah, don't beat yourself up. I just included this so that it's almost impossible to get a perfect score on this test. Okay, so yeah, black covers with bishop f8, and now white continues with the theme of this game, which is space and mobility, and h4, suffocating black to the extreme. So black now plays queen e7, which is a smart idea, because now after g6, there's no more bishop takes g6, because after f takes g6, queen takes g6 check, there's queen f7, and no such mates in 17. So this is a nice idea. Okay, rook hc1. White wants to take over the only open file on the board. Smart idea, of course. g6. Yeah, black is just giving himself a bit more scope. But this might turn out to be the losing move. I'm not so sure here. But at some certain point, this is just a weakness. Maybe black should just shuffle his pieces and not play g6. So maybe the idea with queen e7 is faulty, but I can't really say. But what I'm sure of is something that happens later. Anyway, Rook c2, okay, white is preparing to double. Stockfish also likes Rook c7 at depth 45, but of course we're not going to argue much with AlphaZero, right? So King d8, adding, protecting the c7 square. Rook a c1, and now Queen e8. Okay, just a bit of shuffling by black. This is like the transvestite maneuver if you want. King d8, then Queen e8. Yeah. Well, there's this fun opening in chess. If you don't know, it's called the transvestite opening. It's a sort of trollish opening. Okay, I'm getting sidetracked again. So yeah, Queen e8 and Rook c7. Okay, making use of the file. Maybe White will stop. Will get his queen out of the king side and go for the queen side. Who knows? Rook c7 is an interesting option. It adds more pressure also. So black sees that it should trade the rooks, and I can't fault it for that. It seems like a good idea. Getting rid of some pressure. Okay, fine by me. And now white tickles black a bit with Rook c6. If black doesn't do anything, white has the potential to take on b6. But black plays bishop b7. And now rook takes b6 really isn't possible because of king c7. Earlier, if black didn't do anything, like maybe played bishop g7, you can just take here, and after king c7, rook c6 check. So yeah, bishop b7, and now the rook is forced to retreat. But what AlphaZero did is something very smart, and that's relocate the bishop from d7 to b7. And this is surprisingly such a genius idea. This maneuver, I really don't know what to say, because this starts to become the losing move. Yeah. So now in this position, black should have went for bishop c8. And the Stockfish here at depth 42 gives a plus 0.7 advantage with queen g2 as the best move. I think it's probably a draw here, because white doesn't have any useful pawn breaks. Black is really suffocated, his pieces are bad, but I don't think there's white can arrange anything. Let's not forget, this bishop is a bit bad in the structure. While if it were the black bishop, so if we return all the way back to, help me out here, where was the position? To this position. Here, if white was left with this bishop, this is a much better bishop. But while the light square bishop is for white is traditionally good in the French, when you gain so much space, it becomes bad. And that's why black's pieces are also very bad. He does have the bishop pair. It does have the bishop pair, but there's a certain problem with that, and that's that the entire position is closed. So this knight is extremely, extremely valuable. This bishop isn't valuable at all. This bishop is completely terrible, and you'll see why I use such strong words for this French bishop as the game progresses. And this bishop is sort of worthless, but it has potential to annoy white. So rook c2, and here black commits the losing error, king d7. It feels very surprising to say that this is the losing error. It just seems like a shuffling move. If you give it to Stockfish at depth 49, it says this is plus 0.08. But do you know what the true evaluation is? Losing. That's the true evaluation. And you'll get to see why in the game continuation. And it's really like, this game is like a setup. It's like a setup. it's like you just get a fortress position. I mean, there are certain fortress positions that are known that Stockfish can't solve. But getting them in the game, that's some next level stuff. That's some next level stuff to get fortress positions in a game. So, but this is exactly what AlphaZero did. I mean, a human, yeah, he'd know how to win a fortress position against Stockfish, but he wouldn't be able to reach that because he'd get tactically mobbed like 40 moves earlier. But AlphaZero, nope. Nope. Not AlphaZero. Okay, so this is the subject of test position number 12. A really difficult move if you haven't seen the game before. Well, the move itself may not be so difficult, but the idea behind it is tremendously complex. I don't expect any human to be able to see it even after 5 hours of thinking. And I'd like to take bets on that. Give this position to Carson, but I guess everyone has seen this game by now. We need to find like a remote grandmaster who hasn't seen this game. Give them 5 hours and see if he comes up with the idea. Okay, so pause the video now, test position number 12. Okay, so the move that AlphaZero played is Knight G5. What in the world? Well, there are very, very deep ideas behind this move, and we'll get to see them as the game progresses. Bishop e7 is what Stockfish tried. This is given still as equal at depth 46, and at depth 53 it gives plus 0.83 for this position, which in such an endgame is basically nothing. I treat it as a draw, so it's closer to 0.00. Okay. So now this is the subject of test position number 13. Pause the video. The move white plays is insane. Okay? It's insane. It's bishop takes g6. The idea, of course, is that after f takes g6, there's this move. And here you can win the queen with this, or you can checkmate with this. So yeah, that's the basic idea. But what happens if black takes? Well, let's see what AlphaZero did. It just took back. Okay, but isn't this just losing a piece for nothing after f takes g6? Maybe. I don't know. This is the subject of test position number 14. It's up to you to find out. So pause the video and let's see if you can find the move. The other insane move here is f5. And wow, f friggin' 5? What could be the idea after f5? Well, after e takes f5, you just come in with the queen. And no matter where black goes, he has some problems to face. If he goes here, there's the deflection tactic with the rook c7 check. And you win the queen. And yeah, no matter where he goes, there's this deflection tactic or queen takes b6. You're just infiltrating. The same could be said about g takes after queen g7 check. Again, the deflection tactic or just taking the rook, it's all up to you. I just thought I'd add low-level Stockfish here to show the multi-PV options. Okay, so anyway, Rook g8 is what was tried, because we've discovered that we can't take either way. So Rook g8, and now Queen h6. I just can't, like, it's difficult to explain this combination in human terms, but I think I can try. The idea is that you ruin black structure, and your rook and queen are well poised to infiltrate black's position. So that's f5, why f5 is working tactically. And after rook g8, you have queen h6. And again, the infiltrations work in your favor. So let's say takes, again the infiltration. Again the infiltration, you're winning here. King d8, there's queen c7 mate, and the queen here, queen e7, we have the rook c7 check deflection tactic. So, okay. But what about if black prevents queen h7 check with queen f7? Well, here you go for f6. f6. And after f6, you've basically cornered black. He really is lacking so much space in this position. Can you just look at this bishop? Can we please like say a few words about this bishop, about how sad this bishop is? It's not even a bishop. This bishop doesn't even exist on the board. Its only potential is to sack itself for a pawn here. They say bad bishops protect good pawns. That might very well be true. But in this instance, even that function for this bishop is missing. It's not protecting a good pawn. d5 isn't even attacked. So it's this bishop's protection of d5 is useless. And already there's a pawn on e6 protecting d5. So this bishop isn't even a piece. This bishop doesn't even exist on the board. So effectively, if we really think about the mobility of the position and not the material, white is up a pawn. And not only is he up a pawn, but the mobility also means that he has attacking chances. His queen can swing over, and maybe that's what happens in the game. So yeah, this is the big problem black has. So I'll give you another little test here. What would you play as black? Let's say this is test position number 15. Again, don't feel too bad if you don't find this move, because it might actually not be the best move. But again, I just wanted to include this so that you don't get the ultimate honor, which you'd get if you complete the test. If you get 100 points of the test. So yeah, I'm trying my best for no one to get that honor. Okay, so pause the video, test position number 15. Okay, so Stockfish went for king d8. If you got this, okay. Yeah, it's very possible to get. I mean, there are other moves, and yeah, again, I just included this so that no one gets the ultimate honor in this test. And you might want to skip this part of the video to see what the ultimate honor is. Yeah. Okay, so king d2. Wait, king d2? This is a very interesting move. King d2. Okay, so what might the idea be? King d2. This is what I've been thinking for the past 3 days. And the idea is phenomenal. The idea is phenomenal. I just can't state that enough times. King d2, the idea is to free up the e3 square for the queen, so that the queen can swing over from the king side to the queen side and deliver the fatal blow in the center. What? That's completely crazy. Well, yeah, that's the idea. And black is paralyzed. And Stockfish, after king d7, it gives the following 3 evaluations. Plus 0.76 at depth 46, plus 1.06 at depth 46, and plus 0.80 at depth 50. These are different instances of Stockfish. I ran it three times. These are the evaluations. But again, the position is completely lost. Ever since this strong move, the position has been completely lost. So king d7. Okay. And now Stockfish goes for AlphaZero goes for a move that is so mind-blowing. And do note, it's the only winning move in this position. Well, at least that's what my extensive analysis has shown. What is the move here that that is so difficult to appreciate? Okay. The move here is Rook c1. Again, AlphaZero wants to go for this. So what does Rook c1 do? It frees up the Rook after this maneuver to be able to play on the g file, because the Rook on c2 is blocked by the king. But the king is in optimal position because it's allowing the queen to go to e3, and it's not on a light square where there are potential checks later from the bishop or from the queen. It's on a dark square. So all of this means that AlphaZero understood that these precise locations of the pieces win this endgame. And these are probably the only configurations that win. So, and what does Stockfish say at depth 49 here? It says that king c1 and rook c3 and I think king e3 it was. We'll see this in the second part of the video, but this is what it says. These are all much better moves. Sorry, that was by mistake. These are all much better moves than, well, not much better. They're given as plus 1.79. But rook c1 is only given plus 1.73. But these other moves probably draw. And by probably I mean I'm like 99% sure. But what I am 100% certain of is that Rook c1 wins, and that Stockfish does not appreciate this. Stockfish does not understand that Rook c1 wins until you input a specific move that shows it that it wins. The horizon effect has been achieved by AlphaZero. So, Rook c1. What does black do here? Black goes for king d8 again. Just shuffling. It's just shuffling. But what about king e8? This is the subject of test position. Which one are we up to? We're up to 16, right? Test position 16. So, white to move. What would you play? Okay, the insane move, the completely ridiculously insane move here is king e2. And this is the only move that wins. This is the only move that wins. What is the point of king e2? It's to allow white to play queen e3 and later queen a3. So after king e8, king e2 is the only winning move. It allows white to play this without having to worry, without having to worry about any check on this diagonal from the queen on f7. Amazing concept. Amazing concept. So yeah, this is it. And what about king d8? What is white's move now? Test position number 17. Pause the video. Well, I basically told you the answer early on. It's queen e3. Absolutely insane. And black is powerless because, again, of the piece mobility and space disadvantage to stop queen a3 and queen d6 check, which will be winning. So black tries the seemingly only option, which is queen f8. To block white from going queen a3. But white finds another way to win. And before we go into that, which is the game continuation, let's see what happens after bishop c8, which is a sub-variation. This is test position number... Wait, I inputted two test positions by mistake. This should be number 18, but I'll show you this. This one is test position number 18. So, white to move. What would you play? Pause the video. Yeah, the ridiculous move here is f7. And white wins after this. So if queen takes, of course, you promote to a queen and you're easily winning. You checkmate black. And after queen takes f7, you go queen d6 check, queen d7, queen takes b6. The king has to move. If it moves to e7, you have rook c7. And if it moves here, you have rook c7 anyway. And the position is so cramped that you're just utterly obliterating black. And if rook h8, you go queen d6 check. And after takes, you transition into this winning endgame. Easily winning endgame. So yeah, the move is queen f7. So let's go back to the initial position after bishop c8. And here, what is the winning move? White has a winning move here. So pause the video. This is test position number 19. Pause the video, please. Try to figure out the winning move. Okay, so the winning move here is, brace yourselves, queen h3. Queen h3. Maintaining the queen on the third rank so that it can later go on to a3. And, well, this is Zugzwang actually. Whatever black does, he's going to allow queen a3 with a better position than if white had went queen a3 directly. Is this completely ridiculous? Well, yeah, it does sound completely ridiculous. After queen a3, there's queen f8. And if white wants to prevent the queen from entering, he has to take the queen. Rook takes f8 and rook g1. And this position is probably drawn. And here, after queen f8, if white goes for the same idea, there's just rook h8. And queen d6 check, and yeah, there's nothing. So what white brilliantly does is queen h3, and now any move that black plays, he's lost. So let's take a look at some considerations, okay? What if black plays rook e8? Rook e8 loses to queen c3. And now you're threatening mate on c8. How does black cover that? Maybe queen b7? Well, here you go queen a3, threatening queen d6 check, again with the queen takes b6 check idea. After queen d7, you have rook c6. And this position is comical. All black's pieces are here. This reminds me a bit of Chinese chess, where the generals... Oops, my bad. Where the generals are next to the king piece, basically. And you can't prevent rook d6 now. What about bishop b7? Well, here you just toy with black and go king e3. because if he moves the bishop, like let's say to a8, he gets mated. Oh, oops, my bad. I'm really bad at clicking buttons. So if he moves to a8, he gets mated. And if he moves the queen, say, to f8, he gets mated. So he's basically in Zugzwang again. This is what happens after Rook e8. Rook e8. You go queen c3 and black is busted. What happens after Rook h8? This will be the subject of test position number 20, the final test position. So try to solve it. Well, this move is met by Rook c6. And after bishop d7, you just take here and you're easily winning. And this position, you have a passed pawn and your king is extremely active, and yeah, this is easily winning. So let's go back earlier. What about bishop d7 after queen h3? What about bishop d7? Well, again queen c3, king e8 maybe, queen c7, queen f8, and now you can just move the king to avoid the h6 check. The rook comes in and you check on the back row, king f7, queen b7, you're winning the bishop and it's game over. Okay, what other options are left? So black went for bishop c8, we went for the brilliant queen h3 move. So what other options are there here? Maybe bishop b7? Okay, maybe. Then again, you go queen a3. After queen f8, we get to see the test position earlier, f7. And you're completely winning. And this takes a bit of time for Stockfish to find this f7 move, but it's completely winning. So yeah, this is what happens after bishop c8. But in the game, Stockfish tried queen f8, which seems like a reasonable try, because now there's no more queen a3. And you can't do this queen h3 stuff, because still there is no queen a3. So white went for queen c3 anyway. Not anyway, but it went for queen c3, trying to go for stuff on to go for an attack on c7. Stockfish thought, this is a great opportunity. I can trade into an endgame. And I can't be lost in an endgame because I have an extra piece, right? Wrong. Queen b4, queen takes b4, a takes b4. And this is the move that Stockfish doesn't find. If you give this position, let me turn on the analysis just a bit to see if anyone has done anything here. Yeah, it doesn't give this move such a big score. But after you input the move, it says at, I think it was depth 42, it says that it's +5. So this is the key move. The tremendous move that surprisingly, which is a very human move, I'd really play this in any bullet game. But surprisingly, Stockfish doesn't evaluate it correctly. And here, black is toast. There's nothing black can do. White's king will infiltrate from here and then push a5 and then infiltrate like this. And black is completely helpless. And this extra bishop, again, it's not a bishop. It's terrible. So black thought it was best to jettison the pawn. And as we see by the game continuation, yeah, rook a1 was a very nice idea here. The a5 was also possible, of course, but yeah, rook a1, more artistic. Kudos to AlphaZero for being such a human. And yeah, here, well, you might consider rook h8. After a5 takes. There's king, the king infiltrates, and you really can't do anything. The king is far too active. This reminds me of some Capablanca games where Capablanca sacks like 2 pawns, but his king infiltrates and he wins the rook endgame. Rook endgames are all about activity, and Stockfish does not understand that. Without endgame table bases, and even with endgame table bases sometimes. So yeah, this is what the final position looks like, and Stockfish resigns. So, okay, this video is already an hour long. We'll take a brief look at the evaluations in the second part, and now you can see how well you scored. So, let's see how well you scored. Okay, so let's take a look at this game again, this time with the deeper lines, the deep analysis. So yeah, you can see the depths on the side, you can see the Stockfish principal variations here. I'm going to go through all of this very quickly because you can see this on your own and I don't really have much to add. And they aren't that instructional because Stockfish plays some weird moves here. Not without any ideas, of course, but yeah. So you can look at this these principal variations here. King f2, it gives knight takes d2 at depth 44, and it gives g6, sample line. Here it goes for Kingside expansion, which is really cool to see how it maneuvers the pieces. Stockfish may not be great at fortresses, but it's still amazing. Very funny position here. Anyway, takes d2, bishop d7. I'm going to go through the earlier principal variations a bit quickly because what I care about is the later evaluations, which Stockfish shows, where Stockfish shows its lack of understanding. Here I agree with Stockfish. This is equal. Okay. But this is not equal at depth 49. No sir. No sir. This is losing after knight g5. And the question is why it is losing. Well, the only way for black to draw is to shuffle the pieces. And the only way for white to win is to attack black's weaknesses. And the only weakness in this position, white doesn't have pawn breaks, okay? That much we can say. He does have f5 is prevented. He does have h5 maybe, but that doesn't seem to do much, right? So, like after preparing h5. But then black gets to infiltrate with the queen, and yeah, probably he can't. White really can't do anything with the h5 plan. But the only weakness in this position is this g6 pawn. And the only way to exploit that, knight g5, and setting up the sacrifice. And the only way the sacrifice works is with king d7. But of course, Stockfish saw all of this. But what was its problem? It misevaluated the endgame. Is this a problem of the lack of table bases? Probably not. Probably it's a problem of Stockfish being so dependent on its calculations that it will have problems in these complex endgames. Besides, it had the depth here would be insane. Like maybe someone could reach depth 80 with 1 million cores. But other than that, Stockfish would have to evaluate this endgame from this point. And that is very difficult to do. Because it has to prune many other variations. So, yeah. You can see here the PVs and the depths. All at very high depths here, 45 to 50. Even here it wasn't giving bishop takes g6 at the best move. It was giving knight takes c6. And this is funny because this isn't the best move. What AlphaZero played is winning. And here it's still giving 0.7 at depth 51, which is ridiculous because it's plus 100. Here again, depth 45, queen of 7, 1. And one pawn is basically nothing in these positions. King d2, king d7, here you can see the evaluations. Nope, nope, nope. Nothing. Rook c1. And here we see the funny evaluations where it's considering king c1, rook c3, king e1, king d1, highly likely drawn, I note here. And the fifth pick is plus 1.73, Rook C1, depth 47. Considers endgame, but doesn't see Rook G1 until it's inputted. Ridiculous. And I don't mean ridiculous to be insulting. I love Stockfish and everything, but it's ridiculous how weak engines still are in these fortress positions. Rook G1. Plus 4 at depth 40. Why doesn't SF see this a few moves earlier at depth 47? Exactly. So here, it's depth 45, depth 53 already. And it's giving 0.00 for King E8. That's ridiculous. Here King E2, you get to see how it... Yeah. Here it gives plus 10.28 for Queen takes b4 at depth 50, but yeah, it requires such a high depth to reach. What an amazing game. So, final thoughts. Yeah, this wasn't maybe a fair sporting competition. There's assembly Stockfish. You can add to that also openings and game table bases. There are lots of ways to make and increase the hash size and all of that. There are lots of ways to make Stockfish better as a sporting event. But scientifically, this was an amazing feat because the previous best engine was a 2400. The previous best engine that had neural networks. I mean, that was programmed using neural networks. So this is an amazing feat, even considering that the previous engine didn't have access to as many TPUs that the Google does. But still, it's an amazing feat. And what I really like is how well it can assess these fortress positions, because after it's played itself so many times, it eventually found the winning move in these fortress positions, and it's all within its memory. So really, really amazing stuff. I was much more impressed earlier, like when the paper first came out. I read it very early on, the paper, before it got so much media exposure a day later. But yeah, I was seriously impressed. Then I started thinking and reading, and yeah, it wasn't really that fair a sporting competition, but it wasn't meant to be. It was never meant to be. And besides that, the games that are produced are so amazing, so astounding, so flabbergasting, so infused with such rich concepts that really, I hope we get to see the 100 games, and maybe I'll even analyze them all. Till then, see you guys.